Welcome back to the Ground Up Show. My name is Matt Diavella, and today I'm sitting down with filmmakers, photographers, all around good people. It's Rachel and Daniel from Mango Street. They create YouTube videos and tutorials without all of the unnecessary bullshit for more than 600,000 subscribers on YouTube. Some highlights from this episode include why constraints will help you become a more efficient creator and help you develop your own visual style, how having too much gear can distract you, and why you should ask for forgiveness instead of permission. A couple things before we get into this week's podcast. One announcement. If you've been following along on my YouTube channel, then you've probably seen the most recent update in my quest to get Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson on this very podcast. Hashtag Get The Rock on Matt's podcast. I don't believe I have mentioned it yet on this show, but there was breaking news that happened a couple weeks ago. The Rock himself tweeted at me for the second time, and this time it was even bigger. I'm not going to get into the details here, but if you want to see that exchange, if you want to see the entire journey so far, you can go to gettherockonmattspodcast.com. The reason I even bring that up is because today I've got something important to share. So I talk about The Rock quite a bit on this podcast, and I've realized that there is something missing. There's something that could bring this entire journey together, and that's a jingle. So I had a music producer named Elliot Vaughn reach out to me recently, and he asked to make a jingle for the show. And it got me thinking, what if I held a competition for an epic and whimsical jingle that I could play every time The Rock is mentioned on this podcast? So that's what I'm doing. Are you a musician? Can you make an awesome jingle? Well, you can submit your riff to the tentatively titled Get The Rock on Matt's Podcast Jingle Competition. Trademark. Patent pending. It's basically going to be like the American Idol of podcasting. So I'm accepting submissions now. If you are musically inclined, please send it via email to hello@mattdiavella.com. There's no restrictions except that we ask that you keep them short. So keep them to around 5 seconds or so. It can be a cappella, acoustic. There can be lyrics. There can be no lyrics. I'm leaving that up to you guys to decide. But I'm very excited. This is very important, and I think it's going to really help the show as well as I just think it'll be funny. So yeah, send those to hello@mattdiavella.com, and I look forward to hearing from you. Okay, so I do want to clarify one thing before we get into this week's podcast. On this episode, we talk a little bit about lenses. So I want to clarify a technical definition for the non-photographers, the non-filmmakers out there, because I don't want you to get lost. And I also think that what we talked about is going to be very helpful. It's almost like a metaphor for creators, creatives, and anybody following an untraditional path in general. But I'm guessing that you know what a zoom lens is. It basically allows you to get a tighter shot of the subject without moving. But there's also something called a prime lens. It's a lens you can attach to your camera that has a fixed focal length, meaning that you can't zoom in or out. So you have a zoom lens and you have a prime lens. And there's a reason why you might want to restrict yourself with these lenses, and that's something that I talk about with Mango Street on this week's podcast. Okay, that's it. Just wanted to make that clear so I don't lose any of you guys during this. Let's get into the podcast. This is Mango Street. I have a question to start off this podcast. So this fell off my tripod today. It's from the Manfrotto Tripod. I don't know if you guys use those. Mm-hmm. What is this? I was going to just throw it out. I was like, oh, I don't need this.
Okay, Wait, can I see this?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I think I had that too, and I forget what utilitarian purpose it's for, but
my advice would be to throw it away.
That's what I was going to do.
You're a minimalist.
Get
rid of it.
Just start getting rid of it.
No use.
Well, that was my instant reaction this morning because it popped off and I was like, why do I keep putting this back on whenever it falls off? And for those that are just listening to this, it's just like this half, like a C-clip plastic. It doesn't look like it has any function. There's actually a nut bolt there.
Yeah.
Maybe
it might hold a tool or something.
I'm gonna throw it out.
Throw it out.
Yeah.
If I went to film school, I might know the answer. Sorry.
I do that a lot. Do you guys throw out like the packages? Say that you buy a camera, do you throw out the box and all like the other stuff? Or do you
not
keep
the
that?
boxes.
Not for cameras and lenses, but for everything else. Because if
Can you
you
sell
ever
them
want to
for more?
resell it, people want the box.
The box has a serial number on it,
Yeah. Oh, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
so you can't just buy any box.
I've gotten much better. Anytime we get gear now, I throw it out unless it's a lens or a camera box.
Yeah. Right. Because those are the most expensive things. And if like you're buying something that's $100, it's like, nobody's going to demand the box and the value isn't going to go down that much.
In my high school days, I would keep everything because I was like, I might resell this because I was like into eBay
Even
and
up
stuff.
until very recently.
So it's just a mindset of like, oh, I could when I sell this, and then I realized like, oh, I don't sell anything. I just use it into the ground and then I get rid of it. So
Right. You sell it at a point where it's been like 5 years that you've had the camera. And at this point, like you've gotten so much value out of it.
yeah,
It's not a big deal if you don't make a killing off of the resale.
exactly.
Man, I need to, I don't know. I think I probably should keep my body. I throw everything out mainly because it's just hard to find the space for all that. You could
Right.
fold it up and even like, I'm not going to keep a TV box. You don't keep a TV box.
I don't
do you?
keep
No
any
way.
boxes except for camera,
Okay.
like lenses, and then the camera the camera box.
No, we've gotten much better at making the most of our space, I
Yeah.
think, because we do have a lot of gear now, and we really only have room for like that gear and nothing.
Right, like if we get
nothing
something new,
else.
like something has to go.
Yeah, it's like when you're a kid and your mom makes you give away a toy if you're
Yeah.
gonna go get a new toy.
I'm that mom.
Right. So it's mostly camera gear. Like when you look at all your possessions that you own, what's the percentage in terms of personal to gear?
Look at our closets. There's 4 closets. One's food, one's all of our gear, and then the rest are like clothes and then other stuff that we've had to move.
Yeah, it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress to become a little bit more minimal, and it's like hard because we both have sentimental attachments to things. So I'm just trying to like let things go, just like because we've lived together for a long time, and we've moved probably 7 apartments.
Yeah.
And so every time we move, I'm like, I have way too much stuff, and I
We're
always
good at,
I always do a good job of getting rid of stuff when we move, I think, and then I still realize I have way too much stuff. So I'm working on it.
We've been doing, like, when we get rid of something, take a photo of it, so then we still have, like, the sentimental,
Yeah.
like, memory of it.
You can feel better about
Yeah, and then just get
letting
rid of it.
go. Yeah.
What are the sentimental items that you have now that you're either would want to get rid of or you're like, oh no, I really like this. I'm going to keep this.
Yeah, well, I have my mom, when I was like 15, she made me like a clay, like it's like a mug, and it had the guitar, like my favorite guitar that I owned. It had that, like she made that on the mug, and I kept my guitar picks in there. And then through the years, it like kind of broke off a little bit, and so it's just sitting in a box, and I don't think I could ever get rid of that though.
I have a lot. Mine are mostly, like, clothes that, like, I have memories wearing them. Like, Daniel's just like, can we throw away these shoes? Because they're just, like, Keds that are just totally worn
She hasn't
down.
worn them in like 8 years.
Yeah, but I'm like, no, like, I met you in those Keds. Like, I can't get rid of them.
Oh, you got to keep it.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is actually a sentimental item right here. It's a Winston Cup series. It's from NASCAR. And it was my grandparents. I call it grandma's mug. It's not like one of those sentimental items that I couldn't get rid of, or like say if I dropped it and broke it, it wouldn't like destroy me. But I'm like, oh, it's cool. I like it. I think the thing about sentimental items too is that there's like character in them. There's there's like something extra to them, especially when we live at a time when like everything is focused on just beautiful aesthetic design, and like I'm like all in on that too. Like love West Elm, love getting like really nice things, but then at the same time it doesn't carry that same kind of connection as something that's like been passed down for generations.
Agreed.
For sure.
Yeah.
In terms of, you were talking about your camera gear, like how much stuff you own. If somebody wanted to be more of a minimalist photographer or filmmaker, what advice would you give them? Like, and where would you start with yourselves? Because I know you said you have a lot of stuff that you maybe don't use.
Yeah, well, when we travel sometimes, like lately, I think we've gotten good at realizing what gear we actually don't use and don't need to bring. Because maybe the first time we went to Iceland or something, we brought like four or five lenses. I'm like, that's ridiculous. And then the next time we went, we brought like 2 lenses. So for us, having like realizing that we can just share one camera body, we don't both need to be like taking photos at the same place at the same time. So one camera body for the 2 of us, and maybe like 2 lenses. We shoot prime lenses, so they're set focal lengths. So if we want one wide and one tight, and that's about it. For other people, it just depends on what you like to shoot. But I think if you have a favorite lens, and that's like the lens you shoot like 90% of the time, just bring that with you in your one body and don't worry too much about everything else, I think.
It's kind of not the same thing, but a lot of people always reach out and are like, I don't have like this certain gear, like what should I do? And we always are like, well, like the less gear you have, the more creative you're forced to be. So I don't think it's like a super problem to not have a lot of gear. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, whenever we go out just with like one camera body and one lens, we're just forced to use just that. And so, I don't know, bringing too much kind of like takes away, like
it makes you start to wonder like, oh, should I be switching lenses? Oh, which lens should I use? I think we had that moment when we were, pun intended, we were shooting an iPhone short film for the Moment Film Invitational, and they had a bunch of sponsors, and they all sent us a bunch of mobile filmmaking gear, and we had a ton of gear, and it was like too much gear, and it should have been so simple because you're just shooting on phones, but it was, we brought like everything pretty much, and we're like, we didn't use like half the gear, so I don't know, I don't think gear should like get in the way of the creative process. So anything you can do to make it more simple for you to create, I think is the way to go.
I think that's what prime lenses did for me as well, because I grew up doing first camera was a Sony Handycam, and then I had an XH-A1, which is like a Canon, I believe that's what it's called, a Canon prosumer camcorder. And then eventually going to the 5D Mark II when DSLR filmmaking started to become a thing, and still started out with the zoom lenses. And then eventually somebody told me like what a prime lens was. And it's funny to even think about a time when I didn't know what a prime lens was. I was like, wow, like I thought at that time I knew what I was doing. But prime lenses really got me to think about how I set up my shots, how close I am to the subject. I mean, it's a totally different ball game than when you're working with zooms.
I think it helps you think about photography in a different way. Like, why don't you talk about like when you first started buying gear?
Oh, when I like my idea of like the perfect setup was having like every focal length covered. So I had like a 16-35,
24 to 70,
24 to 70, and then
70 to
200. Yeah, and then I was like, why aren't my photos like? Why don't they feel intimate? Like, why can't I take the same pictures of these like photographers I love? And I realized all those photographers were shooting primes, and so we switched everything out for primes. And then like I feel like that changed everything.
Yeah, and then it just helps you when you're framing. You know what a 35 looks like, and you know what an 85 looks like, and then you know when to, which lens to use for what application. When you use a zoom, you kind of can like mindlessly just change focal lengths without even thinking about it. And I think that can hinder you.
Yeah, and it just doesn't feel the same.
Yeah.
Like a 35 close up feels so much different than like an 8 or,
yeah,
a 7200 zoomed in.
Mm-hmm. And I actually feel the same way about, that's like what you see with the intimacy in YouTube videos, is that it's very often wide angle lenses and you're very close to the camera. And it does feel like an intimate, like we're right here with you, versus if you shot it with a 50 millimeter or even an 85, you're like, you're so far from the person. And it works with like sketches and, shows and certain things that you're doing. But when you're trying to create that kind of intimate feel, like a connection with somebody, it's very helpful to have those wide lenses.
Definitely.
It is funny having the idea, and I think this is a common idea that most people getting into photography and filmmaking have, is that I need to have every focal length covered. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Like I never even thought about that until now. It's like, where does that come from?
I think it's you don't know what you don't know, and you want to be like prepared for everything. Yeah. Like, but then as you get the more experience, you're like, oh, I actually don't need 40 millimeters, and I don't need 90 millimeters. Like maybe I'm fine with just 135 millimeters instead of 200.
Yeah.
I think that comes through experience, and that's why it's really important to go out and shoot as much as possible, and as not to shoot ourselves in the foot, but like I think a lot of beginner photographers should maybe step away from the computer and just go out and shoot. Like get off YouTube and shoot, because that's the only way you're gonna get better.
And also edit your own stuff. You know, like there's certainly a lot of people that are editors or maybe that just shoot and then they hand their stuff off to somebody and they cut it. But like you really start to understand how you should be filming or how you should be taking photos when you actually have to deal with and fix the mistakes that were made out in the field.
Yep.
For sure.
I'm sure you guys have experienced this yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I have a post-production background and that was like my wheelhouse, and I learned production kind of later. So I'm used to dealing with other people's mess ups and everything like that. And then when you deal with your own, there's no one else to get mad at except for yourself. But it helps you realize your shortcomings. Like if you're missing focus, if your framing is bad, if you always shoot a little crooked, it helps you know what to focus on when you're actually shooting.
Yeah.
When I was shooting Minimalism, I kind of had that same idea because I was like, well, I'm making a documentary about minimalism. I should be very simple and very intentional with the gear I use. So originally I was like, I'm going to shoot this entire film with 2 lenses and that's it. It was going to be like a 24 and a 50. Mm-hmm. And then I started that way, try to be as simple as possible. And then eventually there were certain shots that I wanted to get, like people going into stores and just kind of like just generic B-roll. And I was like, oh, I don't want to get that close to people and like make them feel uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And like, I'm sure you guys know, shooting in LA, you can't get anywhere filming. Oh. Luckily, I didn't film much in LA. Like, we actually tried to film at a couple coffee shops. Right when you get to the welcome mat, they're like already being like, no filming, get out of here. Okay. So then I was like, let me get like a 70-200 to like get some of those shots that I can kind of get off from a distance. And that's why experience and getting out and actually doing the work is what's going to be helpful.
Yep, we get kicked out all the time. Like that's probably LA's biggest downside for what we do is everyone wants their cut. Everyone is so, they hate people filming.
Even just like on the public sidewalk, like in Pershing Square, we always get kicked out of there.
Yeah, and
it's
Chinatown's kicking us out now.
Really?
Like,
it's very frustrating.
Yeah, because at least we're trying to be respectful of other people around. We're very, usually like one little camera on maybe like a one-handed gimbal. Like, I don't know, we try to keep it low profile and like not disrupt anyone.
It's the gimbal that automatically gets us shut down.
But I would say even because I've been running around with these cameras, like a little Sony, that people know now. Yeah. They know that like, oh, that small camera, that's a professional camera. I actually shot a video in the Whole Foods up here. And I was like, I'm just going to go in. It was a little bit about the paradox of choice and making good coffee. And like, just wanted to show the array of the kind of coffees that you can choose from. So I did a little shot coming in. And then when I got over there, I'm like, I got one pan and that was it. And then they shut me down. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you can use your iPhone if you want. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll use my iPhone.
That's what I always say is once phones get so good, they're not going to be able to stop us because you can't just shut down people with a phone all the time because there's plenty of like tourists just wanting to take photos or people Snapchatting their way through life. So, I mean, once the phones are good enough, I mean, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I don't think they can stop it. That's the one thing I liked about living in Hoboken. Even New York, people really didn't care that much. Even if you walked into a store and you're like shooting, people really wouldn't say much. I mean, I've definitely gotten kicked out of Whole Foods before. Maybe just Whole Foods doesn't, I think the big chains are a little bit more strict than like small mom and pop shops. But I think a lot of people realize that like this is kind of the world we live in where everybody's taking Instagram stories, everybody's shooting video all the time and photos, and you're not going to stop it. And isn't it helping?
That drives us nuts because like we were making a video of like our favorite places in LA,
and like we would normally charge you for this.
Yeah, like this is unsponsored, and we're like highlighting your business in a very like 5 minutes of like unobtrusive filming, and they kick us out, and you're just like, well, okay, maybe I won't recommend this place, but
it's kind of weird. Do you reach out to these companies sometimes, or like, I mean, I know you guys make a lot of videos and you're putting out stuff every week. So I feel like there needs to be some kind of...
We ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's better just like go try to get the shot and try to get enough before you get kicked out. And then instead of asking and them just saying no, then you explicitly like disobeying what they want. So
yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
It's harder in LA, but because I've done it I remember like just using that philosophy in Albuquerque. I was trying to get a time-lapse shot on top of the hotel. I actually got access to our hotel, and then there was like this bigger hotel that was next to us, and I was like, shit, it's like right next to them. It's right in front of my shot. I can't get a view of the mountains, and this building was massive. I think it was like a Hilton or something. And then, so what I first did was like I went to the Hilton and then took the elevator straight up, and I was like, let me just see if it's unlocked. It was locked, and I was like, shit. All right, I guess I'll ask him now. And then I asked him, and she's like, the person at the front desk was like, all right, let me just call my manager and ask him. And I was like, all right, sure. There's no way they're going to let me on the roof at sunrise, like 5 a.m. in the morning. And she's like, yeah, so our engineer is going to let you up in the morning. And I was like, are you serious? I was like, are you serious? The engineer let me up in the morning. He got up like 5 a.m., 4:30 a.m. to let me up. And he opened the door and he said, all right, have fun. And then he closed the door and left.
Don't tell the insurance company about it.
I know, maybe I shouldn't have mentioned Hilton. He actually, you know what he said? He said, don't jump. I was like, I mean, I had a camera and everything, so I think he that would be a very elaborate suicide attempt. But for me, it just kind of opened up my perspective. Be like, even if you try, somebody turns you down, you can ask for things. I think most of the time people don't even try. What are those lessons you've learned from bringing gear on the road? And I know it's like, for me, anytime I'm traveling for work, it's a little bit more stressful.
I think weddings are like, that's the only time I get stressed. Usually we have our setup in a like one Pelican that we just carry on with us, so I never am worried about it like not making it. But with weddings, like we just did a shoot in the Salt Flats where we had to check a few things. One was like a movie, which is like crucial.
Yeah, so that was with Colin and Samir, right?
Yeah. It's
you had to, I've actually done that. Check the it's a huge case.
52 pounds. And
it's over the limit, right?
Yeah, but we were with Colin and Samir, and they're like gold level Delta's loyalty program. And they're just like, so like by association, we got their nice
we were treated like kings and queens.
We're like, Colin and Samir are already pulling their weight.
Yeah.
Right. Like, thank God we brought them on this trip.
Yeah.
That's true. I mean, that's tough. Yeah, you want to like kind of carry as little as you possibly can.
But as much as, you don't want to be lazy and like sacrifice production quality just because you don't want to bring another bag. But you also don't want to just bring bags for the sake of bringing bags. So now, I mean, we have like I think we had like a smaller Pelican for our stuff. And I think we swapped that out for a camera bag where we can hold our bodies and the lenses that we need. And it's like a lot lighter, because the Pelican by itself already weighs a lot. So just having something to throw on your back is really nice. And then just, I guess bringing what will get the job done and nothing more. For weddings, it's been stressful because that couple is relying on you to like be there with your gear. And, like we did a wedding in Nicaragua, and I had to fill out like a customs declaration form. And that was like the first time I had to do that. And I was like, nervous that we're gonna have to like pay taxes on our gear, because it's like if you have gear over $10,000 you have to declare it. And I wasn't really sure, like I was like, oh no, like what's are they gonna charge us for this? And I had no idea, and I declared it all, and then they didn't even look at it. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I thought,
it's like the chillest airport ever.
Yeah, but chillest, but there's like dudes with like machine guns, like,
oh shit.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't get shot, so
that's good. Yeah.
Then it's also like I wanted to bring the drone, and so I looked it up and I was like, oh, Nicaragua is actually really strict on drones. Like they'll like hold it at the airport and you won't be able to bring it with you. So I left the drone at home. So just like some basic research like that on figuring out what the country's like. And also sometimes it's fun to go out and shoot street photography. And it's helpful to know if you're even allowed to where you're going. So just doing some like basic research has helped, I think.
Yeah, there's people that get into serious trouble. I mean, not filmmaking wise, but probably, but also just like going to certain countries and breaking the law. Whether it's doing drugs and not knowing what the penalty is. It's not just a lockup sometimes. Sometimes like you'll get put away. There was a couple Australians that got put away. I think they were in Singapore or somewhere, but I think they had coke on them and they got locked up for years.
That's
and it's
crazy.
Like, imagine that. Imagine like going somewhere where like here, maybe it's a misdemeanor. Maybe you get a slap on the wrist, but then you go somewhere else and it's like, you got to follow their rules. You got to follow their laws or you can end up in serious trouble.
Yeah.
I think the just in case items is tough for like filmmaking, because you always want to bring those things that in case this fails, like in case this microphone for whatever reason is like getting bad reception or feedback, I better have a backup that I can use.
Yep.
But then those kind of add up.
Yeah, and then it's I think it's making the most of the space you have. So if it's a camera bag or a Pelican case, like for our Pelican case, I installed like the mesh bags that go on the top lid, and that allows us to keep extra lavs, XLR cables, batteries, things like that, where it was just taken up by padding previously. So it's also just maximizing the space that you do have.
In terms of, I love your guys' videos, by the way. I was like binge watching them last night. Awesome. What I love about them is that there's a tone and a certain a tone in filmmaking is such a difficult thing to capture. And that's something that when I was working with clients was like the number one thing. It was the balance between cheesy and funny. And it's like, it's a very fine line, especially when you're working with brands. But even when you're creating your own content, it's like, all right, how do we actually get the message across, make it a little bit interesting, a little bit creative, and not just be like super corny? Did you guys have that direction from the beginning, or was it something that kind of developed and you start to add some wit and some humor into your videos?
I've always relied on Rachel to tell me if something is funny or not, and she's a good gauge, and I think that's always I've always thought she was like really funny as a person. Like that's one of the things that's one of the reasons why I think I was really attracted to her. But beside that, like when we're making videos, I'm always like, is that funny or is that stupid? And then if she's like the barometer of that, like
I feel like I'm better at knowing when something's really lame than knowing when it's really funny. So I can be like, yeah, that can't go in there, or like that. Yeah,
I think if we both laugh at it, that passes our test. And it's like, that's just our style. And if you don't think it's funny, that's fine. But I think if we both laugh at it, then that's, that's good enough for us.
It's good that you have each other to kind of bounce those ideas off of.
Yeah, a second person is definitely good.
Yeah,
I don't even tweet without showing him a tweet first.
Oh, really?
For the most part.
That's hilarious.
I would probably just be making bad dad jokes in the videos if I didn't have Rachel helping guide the humor part of it. So, but that's always something that we've, since like the first video we actually put more into like the joke aspect than we have since. So we just wanted to set the tone. We don't take ourselves too seriously.
Yeah.
And this is what we think is funny.
Yeah,
so.
and also like just to keep it entertaining. Like we want it. We want everything short, concise, like still have good info, but also like we want people to be entertained the whole time, or else they're just gonna click away.
Yeah. So it's like retaining their attention.
Yeah.
It is also like fun to actually make those and try to think of, all right, like, how can I make this funny? Where can we add a joke here? Like this feels a little bit too dry.
Yeah.
We're just finished the edit for a Q&A video, and it's like 18 minutes long. It's the longest video we've ever done for the channel. Usually they're like 4 minutes. And so we just did this, and so it's like all about adding in clips of, whatever we think will help.
Otherwise we would just be exactly this boring.
Yeah, we're pretty low energy, so we have to compensate for that by using pop culture.
I love that, dude. I was watching a video last night, and then it was just randomly that shot of, I forget the woman from The Office getting run over by a car, like flipping over onto a hood. I like burst out laughing because I was like, it was right at the right moment. Like I didn't quite expect it.
Yeah.
But I think that's great though too, because you guys are a little bit more reserved or laid back, and you figure out a way to make that work within your videos, where if you're just going with voiceover and then, kind of being very thoughtful about how you script it and write it out, or if you're going to be on camera and figure out, all right, when do we cut away to something that might be a little bit funny?
Yeah, I think that's just one of our, like we could look at our personalities as being like a restriction, like, oh, we can't start a YouTube channel because we're not super high energy and like outgoing and like,
if we were high energy, it would be very disingenuous.
Yeah, so like we could fake it,
yeah.
but it'd be exhausting for ourselves. Like,
and also,
and I'd feel like
cringy.
a clown. Yeah, I would feel so stupid. So, we can't do that. Like, we're not actors. We can't fake it really. So
we just have to rely on editing.
Yeah. So we're heavily edited.
We're
heavily edited, and we add the humor just because we're not going to be this really engaging personality. And that's just something we have to work with.
Yeah, I actually love that because I felt the same way when I was first. I'm not like good at just coming up with create. I can't even speak words. Coming up with like really inspirational, profound thoughts. You see, because we see these videos of people on YouTube, and some of the most popular ones are like just brilliant, really just off the cuff, can kind of come up with these amazing rants. But I'm like, I can't do that. So for me, it was like, all right, how can I can write, I could tell jokes, I could figure out a way to like narrate this video, use a lot of B-roll. There's so many different ways that you can create content online, and I feel like that's a big one people are missing.
Yeah, like when we first started to vlog, we're like, okay, we want to do something outside of a tutorial, but we're not going to spin the camera on us and talk our way through.
Nobody wants to see that.
Yeah, that's so boring. Like, I'd be bored by it. So I'm not going to watch this, so why would anyone else? And so I think it made us think outside of the vlog box of like what everyone else does. And
so our vlogs are all narrated.
They're all narrated, and like you said, we'd rather write and then just do it after the fact than try to force something on camera. So it's kind of funny when we hang out with like people who do vlog though, and they like turn a camera on us. We're like, what?
I know.
Yeah, Sarah
what
did
do we
that.
do?
Sarah Dici did that for me when she was here.
She was all the time.
And I got like all nervous. I was like, hi.
I'm like, do I look at you or the camera?
I know, it's right. Like we do this for a living, but we still don't know how to do this. Like,
we're the most awkward YouTubers.
Yeah.
I guess.
I'm always, I need to just come up with like a phrase or something, just something cool to say in the moment when people put me on the spot like that. Because I mean, and everybody that I know that has done it and that has like, shot a little bit of B-roll in here, or even done the Instagram stories, that to me is more stressful because I'm like, they're probably not going to, if I say something stupid, they're just going to keep it in. But for me, it's been like, all right, how do I just like, I don't know. Cause I just, it doesn't come natural to me to do that. And actually, I don't even do Instagram stories like that where I'm like, hey guys, what's going on? I'm here. It's just exhausting.
Yeah.
And
agree.
Yeah, I you guys don't do any of that.
Not
I do Instagram
talking.
stories all the time, but I have never talked on an Instagram story.
Yeah, that's not our not our forte.
I think some people force it.
Yeah,
I definitely have seen some people who I'm like, I think there's an element to, hey, just keep trying new things and, maybe trying to do more off the cuff stuff. You'll probably get better and you'll probably, learn a little bit about it. But at the same time, just because everybody else is doing that format of like, here's my everyday life, let me story throughout the entire day, doesn't mean that you have to do that.
I think there's a ceiling on how good I could even get at that from my personality type and what I'm good at. Yeah, maybe I could get a little bit better off the cuff stuff, but it's only going to get so good, and that's still going to be subpar.
Right. Yeah, that's great because I do think that people don't think about that enough and look at the different templates, because I think that maybe that template isn't out there as much, the kind of format that you guys do, where people feel like they have to do what everybody else is doing because that seems like the only way to make it.
And there's people who do it better. Like, I don't want to do the same format and then it's just not going to be as good as someone else's. So it's like, why you have to give them a reason to watch your vlog. And for us, I think that was just making it different.
Well, also, I don't think we even knew what the norm totally was. Like, we knew what tutorials were like long, boring, drawn out things. We knew we didn't want it to be that. But when we first did our very first tutorial, we just made it our own thing right off the bat, and then
we're kind of far removed from like the whole YouTube.
We watch
culture.
some now, but we literally didn't watch any YouTube.
I didn't know who Casey Neistat was when we started the channel, and that was in January of 2017.
That's great.
Didn't know, and then several months later, I started watching. I was like, oh, okay,
I didn't know what a vlog was. Literally like 2 months into our channel, I didn't know what a vlog was.
But I'm pretty close to you guys where like. Yeah. People were saying, I remember I was interviewed by, it was Craig Adams. He's like a minimalist filmmaker as well. Yeah. And he's like, oh yeah, something about Logan Paul. And I was like, who's Logan Paul? Yeah. I don't know who this guy is. Now I'm very upset that I know who he is.
Oh, great. I was like, I used to work at like Sunset and Vine. There's a Trader Joe's right there. And I went there and I saw that, I think it was Logan Paul standing out front, and I was like, oh, I think that's like that one dude from that one thing. And then all of a sudden it was
and
like,
you were like ashamed that you
know. And then someone at my job mentioned Jake Paul. I was like, no, you mean Logan Paul? He's like, no, he has a brother. I'm like, oh. And then I was very disappointed to find out more.
Yeah. You're like, don't tell me these things.
Yeah, I was
because you can only not know once when somebody tells you.
Very blissfully ignorant, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah. And I think that's probably what helped you guys to actually do something a little bit different. I mean, apart from the fact that it would just be exhausting to fake it and try to do something that didn't align with how you guys actually are in real life. But yeah, I think people maybe get a little bit too caught up in what the top 1% of YouTubers are doing or Instagrammers or whatever, and they're just chasing trends.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
For sure.
That's definitely what people do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you guys see the trend chasing with photography, filmmaking as well. Like
it drives me nuts. Like, just because I think it's hindering people. For instance, like with filmmaking, it's all about like these travel bros. No offense to the people that do it. Like Sam Colder is very good at it. But now everyone just wants to be Sam Kolder, and it's like you're not going to beat the original when you're just copying what they do. So you can learn a Premiere transition, but that's not going to make your video good. So I think people too much are worried about how to pull off some trick or gimmick and not worry about the actual content of their video or their photo.
Or bringing something new. Like if you're just a copy, why would somebody want the copy when they can have the original?
Yeah, like you're not going to watch someone who's, I mean, like you said, you could just watch a Sam Kolder video if you want to see a Sam Kolder effect. And that goes with like anyone who's like in the forefront of their field, who's creating new things. Like that's the hard part, is coming up with something new, coming up with like a new technique or a new way of telling a story. That's the hard part. And then it's easy to like replicate that, but coming up with it to begin with is the hard part, and that's what makes you stand out. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's true in terms of style, and I think, or in terms of like creative execution on a video, but I think there's also the thing that's always going to make you original is your personality and who you are and like the way that you can deliver a message that somebody else can't.
No one can copy your unique perspective. I think you look at it as your unique advantage, what sets you apart, and if that's your background or your personality, I think that's something to embrace.
Agreed.
Anything else?
Everybody just looked at me. Agreed.
Okay. I don't want to hog the mic here.
You guys have been doing YouTube for like a little over a year, a year and a couple months. Things have been going okay. Not a bad first year.
I think we created our first video and we didn't really know what to expect. We wanted to see a little bit of traction just to get us motivated to keep creating. So we put out the first video and we're like, I hope this gets like maybe 500 views in a week. And then within like, I think 24 or 48 hours, it had 10,000 views. So, okay, that like validated our proof of concept, I guess. And then we had a goal of, like after we put out that video, we're like, it'd be so cool to get like 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year.
Right.
Jinx.
Yeah. So we were aligned with our goals. But then we hit that much faster than we thought. And then we hit 500,000 at the end of the year, which was that's mind blowing. And we never could not see that coming, really. Like we did not expect that whatsoever. So, yeah, it's been going okay.
I had the same feeling though too, where I was like, 15,000 was my number, so I was a little bit more ambitious than you guys. And I was like, but to me, like the number 15,000 for whatever reason, it felt so big. I was like, there's no way. I mean, like if I could get 15,000 subscribers, that's like, it felt like speaking to like an arena. It was like, and it just seemed so far fetched. And whenever I saw other people that had it, I was like, oh man, like how did they get there? How did they get to that place? And then once you get it, you're like, this doesn't feel any different.
Yeah.
There's no, am I right? I don't know if you guys had the same experience, but like you get to this place and you're like, there's no feeling. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel different to have that. It feels the same. Maybe it gives you a platform. It allows you to make money. It allows you to do certain things, which is incredible. But it doesn't change who you are, or at least it shouldn't change who you are.
Exactly. If anything, you just feel more pressure because there's more eyes on it. But yeah, there's no. You kind of want more people to have like the same experience, just so they know what it's like, and they know that that's not like the end all be all.
Right.
Because it's just the beginning, really, and it doesn't mean anything really.
It literally means nothing.
Yeah, you're not going to take that to your grave, like your
Except
follower count.
On my gravestone, I do want my subscriber count etched in. For the record.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Just a joke, right?
Yeah. But then they have to just like update it every week when it goes up.
Or down.
Yeah, or down.
As your friends die off too.
Yeah. That's the Jim Carrey said that, where it's like everybody thinks that money is going to buy them happiness. I think he said, I wish everybody could get all the money.
So they know it's not the answer.
That it's not the answer. And it's like, somebody like him can say that because he's had everything. And like we see these stories all the time where people that are rich or famous or successful commit suicide or struggling with depression. And it's like,
that must not be it, right?
Yeah.
If it's not fame and fortune, that, I think your happiness has to come from within. That's got to be the only way. Not
only that, but I also think that your subscriber count or your follower count doesn't equate good work, which I think a lot of people don't.
People get too caught up, especially in the photography field, if they're worried about their Instagram account and like, oh, I only have 300 followers. Should I change what I'm doing? And I want to say no, but
some of my favorite. We did a video on like photographers you should follow. Some of our favorite photographers ever. They're all below like 10,000 Instagram followers. They're like the
and
best
they're
photographers.
way better than people with 2 million or whatever, you know?
And I think in part that takes away some of the pressure to know that it's not all about the quality in a certain regard, where like if some people can just put out like shit every single day and they get millions of views on every video, whatever it is, it's like all right, well, so I'm definitely putting out better content than them, or at least I'm being more thoughtful and intentional. And I feel like there is an audience there. So it kind of gives you a little bit of a boost where you're like, okay, there is some space. There is an opportunity for it.
Yeah. And it's easy to get discouraged when for us, it takes a lot more production and post-production, I guess, to pull off a video, just because we're not that entertaining personality. And we're like envious of people who can just talk to the camera, because I'm like, oh, it'd be so much easier if we could just like
our workload
engage.
would shrink like 18 hours a week.
Yeah, instead we have to like, go when we're on camera, we have to like do it line by line because we're that bad, and and then we have to like write a script and do voiceover, and then spend 14 hours editing one video, and then we put it out, and then you're just like, oh, I wish I could just like turn the camera around and talk to the camera for a little bit about it.
Yeah, and there's also people like not even giving that great advice or good tips, but they're just entertaining to watch. And it's like, oh, we don't even have to like dig up, like we don't even have to like research a subject. Like we can literally just like turn on the camera and talk.
We don't have to like go shopping and get an outfit and hire a model and do a shoot. We could just like talk to the camera and be way more successful.
Yeah, that's like comedians that are just naturally funny people. Like I saw Dave Chappelle here. He just happened to come in on a show. It was incredible. And you could just tell that it just came so natural to him. Like, I'm sure that some of it was prep, but most of it just seemed off the cuff. And you're like, oh, this dude's just funny. Like, he's just making... Yeah, and like, then there are comedians that script out every single thing. And a lot of them do. But, like, you have to be like... You can't be in the moment as much. You need to write down everything. And I think that's okay. And that's what makes these people a little bit different. And, like, for sure, I'm, like, totally envious of people that can just turn record on and just be super...
Like, pump out a video.
Yeah, I'm like, damn, man. And I try to do that from time to time, and I experiment with it. But I'm like, for the most part, if I'm making a video that's good and that I'm, like, I feel good about, it's something that's, like, highly edited and very thoughtful.
Same.
But I think that's what makes us different from other people out there.
Yeah, and I think for every person who's really energetic and fun to watch, not everyone can relate to that personality. And so I think having that difference, having like, our personalities, I guess there are people who can relate to us.
Some people need something to fall asleep to.
Some people, they want to throw on our channel and take a nap. That's great.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not this podcast. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. What is it that gets you guys to keep working every week? I know when I first started out just freelance filmmaking, trying to start my own business, not making a lot of money, it was like just working and sitting down, and Stephen Pressfield calls it the resistance, getting over that. It's like, how do you guys continue to make stuff every week and not just like chill with your pup and watch Netflix?
We do that sometimes.
We definitely make time for that.
Yeah. But eating is a big motivator. Like,
we set this since our inception. We were like, all right, we'll put out a video every Monday, and we put that self-imposed restriction on us because there is like a pressure on YouTube where if you're not growing, you're dying. And I mean, that goes with a lot of things career-wise in life, not just YouTube, but especially YouTube though. You always have to feel like, I need to be, people are subscribed to you because they want to see stuff from you. And if you're not consistently putting out stuff, they're going to forget about you. YouTube's going to push you down. And when you're relying on that to eat.
Yeah, this is both of our full-time jobs now. Like, we're not really booking weddings anymore, and he's not working.
We're not doing
graphics.
freelance work. Yeah. I left my full-time job. So yeah, it is like, I mean, we like, at least, we have a strong work ethic, I think, and that's something we've always had. And when you're relying on yourself to, support your, you're not just getting a paycheck just for showing up. You actually have to do something. So, I think that right there is enough motivation.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if we had a different source of income, we might do it less or different. Like, I don't think we would do tutorials anymore. I think we would just do like passion projects on YouTube. Mm-hmm. But right now, it's just, that's our job right now.
Yeah, I think what's hard though, if it's just passion projects, and I've had many of those before that I never finished, and that's what's kind of hard, where there is an element to you have to just go all in, where you're like, all right, I'm going to take this seriously. And I think it's probably the moment when you start to see some feedback and you start to see some reception where you're like, okay, maybe this is possible. Whether that's getting a couple weddings or it's, you know, getting 10,000 views on your first video, where you're like, okay, there's something here. And if I put everything I have into it, I can make it work.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, you know, we just got this question. It was like, how can I tell my mom I want to drop out of school and make photography videos on YouTube? And we're like, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
Wait until you have no choice but to drop out of school, because school's holding you back from potential, you know, all this potential. So so in the Q&A video we did, I told them I had a full-time job for the first 10 months when we were doing this video, and it was just like staying up like till 3 a.m. on Sunday finishing a video and then going to work on Monday. And like we didn't have a weekend that year because we had to put out a video every, you know, I was working during the week. We had to do we had to spend our weekends working on a video. And it's just like you know, if you want it bad enough, you'll find the time to do it, and you're not gonna drop out of school and then start a channel from scratch. I don't know.
Speaking of making money and making a living off this thing, I did notice on your videos, you guys get very creative with how you implement advertising and the sponsorships that you put in. And it's a conversation, an ongoing conversation that I'm having on this podcast with people. And I just talked to Jason Zook, who, I don't know if you've heard of him. He had a company called I Wear Your Shirt, where he wore people's shirt every day for a year. And like the first day he got $1, second day he got $2. He made over $1 million wearing other brands' t-shirts.
Amazing.
Yeah, and this is like early on in the internet. This was like 8-10 years ago. Since then, he's like sold his last name. He's got this course where it's like buy my future, and it's like every product I make in the future, you can buy everything I'll ever make. Very creative.
That's awesome.
And just interesting ways to like work with brands and make a living as a creative. So I do see you guys doing it a little bit differently. And I actually got a question from somebody, or not even a question, it was more of a comment about how well you guys are integrating advertising into your YouTube videos, and you're doing it so differently. I guess I have a few questions just about that, like how it started. What has the reaction been from people? Because so you'll do like usually an intro, and then it'll be like a very creative sketch almost, like an advertisement, whether it's Squarespace or Skillshare, and then it'll go into the substance of the video. Like, what have you seen the response been, and how do you guys feel about what you've done so far?
The response is great. Like, I've never seen, I'm sorry. The response has been great. Especially for like, the more work we put into it, the better the response has been. But our philosophy with advertising is the same with our videos. Like, we don't want to waste anyone's time. We want people skipping through them. Like, we want them to be entertained while they're watching. And so whether that's like giving in to filming a whole ad in like 120 frames per second with like, you know, Foley and, you know, like our Skillshare grilled cheese making, or, you know, a sketch that's going to make people laugh. And people have responded well to that.
Yeah. I think it's like, if they want videos from us, for us, we just have to do the brand deals, the advertisements. Otherwise, we're going to have to go get full-time jobs, and you're not going to get videos. So it's like a trade-off. You don't have to pay for these videos, and you can skip through these ads if you want, but we have to do them either way. So since we have to do them, we wanted to make it as fun as possible. So it is like, we just put out a new Squarespace ad, and it's, since we're actually getting married, we're eloping in like 2 weeks, and people, you know, we mentioned like we got engaged and we did a video about it in August, so people know, I think, that, you know, we're getting married. And so we just slid in this new ad where it's like a wedding video, like an elopement, and our vows are plugs for Squarespace. So it's something that we'd wanted to do for like almost a year now. We've been talking about it for a really long time, and then we finally like, all right, it's time to go do this ad. So we hired like 2 of our friends, and we spent like half a day out in Malibu shooting it. So it's just like, we'll put money into it because it is that is how we make money, and so it's okay to invest in it, and it is okay to like spend the time to do it. And it was just like a lot of fun. And then when we put that out, like 90% of the comments on the video were all about the ad and how much people loved it. And so we sent that to Squarespace. We're like, look, here's a response from our latest ad. Just want to let you know. So it's like, I guess it's a win-win. If you're gonna have to sit through an ad, it might as well entertain you. And if we have to do it, it might as well, we might as well have fun doing it. So it's a lot better than doing like a read to camera, because look at us. We're
not great.
Very low key. Like, come on, like 24/7 customers. No one wants us to listen to that.
Right. And maybe that's where it comes from too, right? Where you guys are like, oh, that wouldn't feel right. It would feel inauthentic. So let's get fun with it.
And also brands, like agencies, don't really understand that. Like a lot of times they'll be like, okay, here's your talking points. You're going to read this to camera. And we're like, well,
no.
What about this? Like we did a video for Chromebooks. And instead of doing like a super, inauthentic ad where we were like, we love a Chromebook and this is why, we did like a vlog, and then we just like used funny ways or like creative ways to like incorporate it into our, the trip that we took.
Yeah, it was more tongue in cheek and more like, if you can integrate humor into your mentions, I think people appreciate that, because people are sold to constantly, and it sucks, and we're sold to constantly, and you're always weary of like, yeah, but are you getting paid to say that?
Yeah.
And that's just like, that's the unfortunate like reality that we live in. And so we kind of want to make it clear that we're selling when we do have to sell, and we try to do it in a way that's like not
where people aren't mad at us.
Yeah, and it's not like we try to make it so it's like we're only recommending things that we use for the most part. And like, so for instance, like when Wix reached out to us in the beginning, I was like, no, let's hold out for Squarespace, because we pay for Squarespace sites, so we can like genuinely recommend Squarespace, because that's what we use. So then we said no, Wix, and then we waited for Squarespace to reach out,
which was like a while, kind of. It felt like
I was like,
they're playing hard to get.
Yeah,
yeah, they do,
which is weird for Squarespace, because they'll sponsor anyone.
They sponsor anyone with a pulse. So
them and Casper.
Yeah. we could use a Casper mattress. By the way,
we have a Casper mattress.
How is it?
This podcast is brought to you by. It's great. I actually love it. It's incredible. Yeah,
right, Casper.
I would highly recommend.
Holla.
Okay, so you guys get very creative with the advertisements that you include in the videos. It seems like people are reacting to them, like they're actually commenting about them. It's conversational. Like that's really a lot of value that you're providing to this brand. Do you get to charge a higher CPM because of that? Do you feel like you can actually charge more of a premium than somebody that's just giving a read?
I don't.
Maybe now. We got locked in for a year before we started.
Yeah, we have a year-long contract with Squarespace, because it was like it was like the safe bet. I was leaving my full-time job. It made sense, I guess. So that was locked in previously, but we think it's it's pretty fair. And so I would say no, we don't get to charge a premium yet.
But maybe we should.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if a lot of times the people that you deal with at these companies, they just have to like have it make sense on paper. Like these are your
justify it to their boss.
Yeah, like if they're going to spend this much money, well, how many views are they going to get? And that's usually like the numbers that they care about, and it's not like how well it's done or anything like that. So it's we haven't negotiated, and it's been a few months since we last had to do that. But now going forward, like we do put, we can kind of use that as like a selling point. Like we do, we are kind of selective with who we work with. We turn down plenty of ads that don't make sense for our channel. And so I think that is a selling point, and that is like something that we're not just pitching anything.
And do they pay you to make those little spots as well, or no? Is that like included in?
No, that's just like Squarespace didn't pay us actually to go do this Malibu thing. It was just like we had to do a Squarespace spot, and we're tired of having to show the one we already did, and we just want to do something new just to keep people from like blowing their brains out from like seeing the same ad over and over again. So That was same rate as everything else, and it was, it's just another video essentially, but it was just something that we wanted to do for everyone's sake.
Right. I feel like down the road you could, I mean, even now you could get an actual budget for like commercials and like do some really crazy shit where
I think we'd like to do that.
Yeah.
It's just anything that just lets you be creative and like do something fun on a company's dime. Why not?
We're all for that.
Yeah. Let me see here. Let's wrap up with a couple questions from Instagram. I got a bunch of questions here from peoples. Ryan Mars, he's a NYC photographer. He wants to know, how do I gain a YouTube following? I'm a portrait photographer and want a bigger social media following, but mostly focus on Instagram right now.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah.
So wait, YouTube or Instagram?
I don't know. It's really confusing.
Okay.
But I guess, is there a difference there in your guys' mind? And like, how would you grow each of them?
So you have like the base of social media, of like how to grow social media. And I think that's consistency and quality. And that's, for YouTube, it's like figuring out how often you can post a high quality video. And that's based on your own, schedule, your own restraints. For us, that's once a week. And so find out whatever that is for you and then stick to it. And for Instagram, I think we always say engage with the community in an authentic way. So Instagram, I think they still do weekend hashtag projects.
Yeah. So
when we like years ago, we would do all the weekend hashtag projects, and like they're good prompts to get out there and shoot and be creative. And Instagram like featured Rachel's photos a couple times from the weekend hashtag projects on their account. And also going to like the meetups they have and interacting with people, getting to know other photographers in your area, I think is also really helpful. And honestly, and then don't chase the trends. Like just post what is creatively fulfilling for you. And if you build an audience, cool. And if not, at least you're creating something that you enjoy.
I feel like chasing trends on Instagram, you're actually rewarded for it though.
Maybe, but that's a shallow reward, I think.
Right.
So.
Yeah. What's the quality of the people that will be following you from that?
Yeah.
I agree. I found that YouTube has been the easiest to build, and that's just me being a filmmaker as well. But then since I grew that one, I've been able to push people to Instagram from YouTube.
Exactly.
And give them like a clear incentive where it's like, hey, like for me early on, especially, was if you want to see behind the scenes from this video, I've created like a sequence of 10 Instagram stories. You can go check it out, like check on my page. And that drove like tons of traffic my way.
Yeah. YouTube's great because it's a huge search engine. And so it's a way better way to build a platform or like an audience, I guess. And then from there, they can find you on other social channels.
Except for Twitter. Nobody's finding us on Twitter.
Twitter's a weird one.
Yeah, Twitter's
I asked for questions on Twitter for this one. I mean, my audience is probably 3 times bigger on Instagram, but still, I got maybe like 100, 150 replies on Instagram, and then on Twitter, I got like 2.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Twitter's I don't know.
Weird
I
animal.
don't really get it. So
yeah, although it's the only way I'm potentially going to get The Rock on my podcast, so I do keep that.
Embrace it. Yeah,
I do keep that top of mind. Let's see here. Elizabeth says, I'm getting my degree in photography and would love to hear you guys talk about what things to take advantage of or try while I'm in college. Something that would give me an advantage when I get out into the real world of photography.
So we didn't go to school for photography or filmmaking, so I can't super speak to that. But what I would like to have taken advantage of if we did would be like networking, building a community of other photographers and people you can work with in the future.
Yeah, and then also try to intern where you can, try to assist other people, because the experience you see or the experience that you gain from watching a professional photographer or whomever do their thing, do their craft, interact with clients is like really invaluable. And I think just like knowing how professional shoots work, knowing how like the inner workings of everything, that's super helpful. So when you're looking for a job and you have like a little bit of experience or a little bit of like know-how, I think that is really key. And then it's just like it's working really hard and then being creative, like thinking outside the box. Like one thing, just in terms of like getting a job, like in 2012, I want to say, we created like video resumes for ourselves. And this was, I don't think a lot of people are doing video resumes.
Don't search for them.
Yeah, don't search for them.
Oh,
They're
no.
horribly embarrassing.
Video resumes. Yeah, I don't know if those are going to ever be a thing.
Yeah.
I've like definitely, I helped my ex-girlfriend make a video pitch to a company she wanted to work at. And it was kind of cringy looking back on it.
But I made a website, basic HTML. Rachel helped me shoot like this embarrassing video resume, which had like my skills, and it was like kind of creative and like, I mean, it's super cringy now, but
It was 2012 creative.
I got I got a job as a video editor with zero experience, like zero experience.
Oh, so the video helped.
The video helped.
We both got cool jobs.
Rachel got a really
take it
cool.
back.
So yeah, so I'm just saying, like, thinking outside the box. And there's this like this job I really wanted, and I was super underqualified for it, and it was they dealt a lot with Flash for some reason. So I taught myself Flash, and then I made a video resume based in Flash, so you could click through, and it was an Arrested Development themed Flash resume, and so it like completely correlated to the job. And despite me being horribly underqualified, I got an interview anyway, so I got their attention.
Several interviews.
Yeah, so I didn't end up like working there, but it really helped me get noticed. So it's like, set yourself apart. Do whatever you can, like, and if you're like a creative type person, be creative with your resume, be creative with the work you put out there, because you'll attract companies that appreciate that. Instead of, I never wanted to work at like a stuffy corporate job, so I never put myself out there as someone who is like that.
That's great advice for people who aren't good at interviewing or maybe shy. Like, I get like very nervous and I can't be myself when I'm being interviewed by somebody and they're like asking me questions. I'm like, I just can't, I've only done it a couple times, but I just remember back just being like, oh wow, there's no way I would get that job unless I could back it up with like amazing work or quality or my creativity. So it's like, if you can show your skills and prove that you can get the job done, then that's all that matters. In terms of networking, like, how do you guys build your relationships now? How do you like meet new people or connect with those that inspire you?
Yeah, so being in LA, so we're from Chicago, and Chicago is like a super tight-knit city. It's very community-based. It's very easy. Like, I feel like all the photographers know each other. They have meetups regularly, and coming to LA is totally different. The opposite. Everyone's kind of an island here, and I think it's just like oversaturated. So it was very hard. I still don't know a lot of wedding photographers. And
it feels competitive. Like, people,
very competitive.
Yeah, and I don't know if it needs to be that way, because I think there's plenty of people getting married or need photo work. But in LA, there is a lot of people running around with cameras, and being our introverted personalities, where it's like hard to meet people because it's like taxing on us.
Yeah.
Like, it takes a lot out of us to go to like these social events.
Immediately need a shower.
Yeah.
That's what you guys are going to do after the podcast. I got a shower. I
she'll
feel
go,
filthy.
I mean, YouTube's helped, I guess.
I was going to say, just like
meeting-
having the platform, and then like people can learn our personalities through that, so they can, I don't know.
The first time we met up with like Sarah Dici and John Hill, they didn't put a camera on us right away, because I think they knew that we weren't like super like good at that, or like, so I think YouTube's just helped. Like, people, we follow people, they follow us, and we can kind of like connect over that. Like, oh yeah, I know your YouTube channel. Let's meet up for coffee or whatever.
Or like even just having that platform when we reach out to anybody, even if they don't know us through there, if they see that, then I feel like that gives us more
it validates you a little bit, which that's, I mean.
I think it's less about like the subscriber count or views or whatever, and it's more about people respect the quality of work that you put out, exactly. And they're like, oh, like these guys are super creative. Like, I really admire their work, which I think is way bigger than somebody who's just YouTube famous or Instagram famous. Like, I don't want to meet people that are Instagram or YouTube famous for the most part, unless I really like see their stuff and I'm like, oh, they seem like cool people.
We had someone reach out to us who had a couple million Instagram followers and wanted to do something, and I was like, I don't think we had the same aligned. I don't think it would have been a good experience, and I don't care how many Instagram followers I would have gotten from that. It was probably not going to be a good time, I guess. So it's not about the numbers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can be hard to say no.
Yeah, it's something that you think about, and you're like, oh, should we? And you're like, no.
Yeah. It's just in general, though, too, because I'm sure you guys get lots of requests, lots of podcasts, or lots of interviews, or collaborations, and you can't say yes to everyone, because then you wouldn't have time to make your own stuff.
Right.
So how do you actually say no? What are the ways that you you do it in a way that's tactful, that doesn't like hurt somebody's feelings.
Usually, like if we just don't have time for it, then we just
Yeah,
That's the excuse, right?
well, it's true.
Yeah, you could say, oh, we'd love to. Unfortunately, we have a lot of different projects going on right now and don't have time. And I think hopefully they can respect that and understand it because, we don't have a lot of time. We are busy most of the time, just because we have like a schedule we need to stick to because, like, for instance, we're traveling for 3 weeks for our wedding and honeymoon. And we have to get a bunch of stuff done so we can have our work. We can still have videos going out while we're gone. So, it's like we do have like a schedule, and so it's like we can't break that to meet up with everyone, unfortunately.
A couple more questions here. I gotta ask this one because a lot of people asked it. And I'm sure you get it all the time. But it's, how do you guys work together, live together? And do everything together? You both work from home, and you're getting married.
How we don't kill each other?
Yeah. How do you guys? How are you not in
question.
jail right now?
It's a good one.
Dead.
It's a good one.
Are you familiar with Enneagram types?
No, I don't think
Sorry.
so.
Okay, so it's kind of like what's the other?
It's like a Myers-Briggs.
Like
personality
Myers-Briggs,
type.
but
Yeah.
like way more detailed. And it's like a good way to know how to work with a business partner or your actual partner. And so like that has been super crucial in like just knowing what he needs and knowing how to communicate, like how he communicates best, and vice versa has helped us a lot.
Yeah. Her excuse for everything though is I'm a 4, so
Right. It always comes back to
yeah,
that.
it does. But yeah, it is, we have worked together for so long. First, I was like assisting her when she was shooting weddings, and we shot so many weddings together now. It's like we can anticipate each other. We know what the other, I know what she wants. I know what shot she wants. So that helped like set the groundwork. And in terms of like YouTube, like obviously it's hard sometimes, but just having like knowing what each person's good at, and
We're very complimentary.
yeah, and it's okay to divide the roles into like what suits that person best. Like she had her photography business, and when we started eventually we're like, all right, let's wind that down and absorb it into our the more Mango Street business. And I was like, okay, I know you hate emailing. I will do all the emails because she just hates it. So I know that's my responsibility, and that's fine. I don't mind doing it. I can do it quickly. I don't have to think too much about it. And so it's less of a burden for me to do it than it would be for her to do it. And then in turn, like when we need video ideas, I know that she's going to come through with video ideas. Like
I'm always sitting on like 20 video ideas.
Yeah, sometimes it's too many.
Yeah, just waiting for him to catch up.
So, and then it's like, okay, I'm a faster video editor maybe, so I'm okay with like taking the video from.
A lot of times he'll drive, and then like when we're editing together, like
drive the edit, yeah.
Yeah, drive the edit.
I drive the car too.
Dude, I drive the car as well. Natalie, she's from Sydney, so she's a bad driver. She's gotten into a bunch of accidents, but I'm like, for me, it's less stressful if I drive.
I'm a bad person. Passenger.
Oh, you
I'm a
are?
bad passenger. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that too.
I'm just like, I'll just drive.
I'm
Like,
a bad
I'm-
passenger too.
Well, that's just because I
But I'm a worse
tailgate.
Yeah, that's the thing is that it was maybe 2 days ago. It was after The Rock tweeted me. Was that yesterday?
Is
No,
that
it was
how
2
you're
days
gonna
ago.
define time
That's
now?
how I define time. It's like pre-tweet and then post-tweet. And then I was like, we got to celebrate. This is huge. So she like picked me up after work, and then we got Tatsu ramen down the street. And it was like it's a 5-minute drive. And like the whole time, just watch out. Like you're in the middle of the lane. And then I'm just like, I'm backseat driving, and it's not good. So I drove the way home.
Okay, so I drive the edit. What were you saying about? We went on a driving tangent.
Oh, just like because you're faster, so he'll be in the captain's seat.
She'll
We'll
be-
both work on it together.
We both work on the edits together. She'll be like, "Oh, cut that. That's too long there.
Take that breath out.
Take that breath out." Yeah.
So it's very
The
much
reason why
kind of
they're shorter is because I can't handle the awkwardness of like a breath.
Yeah, like there's some times when we're to camera, and if there's like 2 sentences in a row, and we magically are able to do 2 sentences in a row without cutting, and it's like one take, I'll be like so proud of that. And there'll be like maybe 500 millisecond pause in between the sentences. She's like, cut that out. I'm like, you want me to jump cut my good take?
So awkward.
Yeah, you can't jump cut a good take
But she
if there's
makes me
just a
do it.
little bit of a breath.
She makes me do it.
Yeah.
Man, I try not to do that because there's this balance of jump cuts. You don't
Yeah.
want to over jump cut.
Mm-hmm.
I think a couple is okay. Some people just do it with like every other word. And then maybe it becomes too much.
Yeah, we try to get a sentence at least.
At least one sentence out, yeah.
But yeah, having that balance and having, if I finish an edit, I'll have her look at it, make sure it's good. Sometimes I'm like just too absorbed into it. So it helps to have like really someone else to bounce things off of whose opinion you respect.
It seems like very a fluid relationship and something that's kind of like evolved and grown as you guys have done more work. And it really is just like any relationship where you need to just find that balance of how to work together, when to give each other space, who should be doing which task, what do you enjoy more. Where it just kind of, it'd be a hard thing to teach because it's so individual to each person.
It's true. And it helps knowing when to take a break too, when to not talk about work.
Yeah.
When to just go see a movie or something and not, take the night off or whatever. Because it's easy to just when you work from home and live together and you both work on the same thing, it's easy to just
You
keep
could just
working,
not
keep
stop.
working,
You could
keep
just
working.
work all day.
Yeah. So it's good to know when you need a break.
Yeah, I find that too, is that you will be we are our own bosses.
Yeah.
So, and we would never treat anybody the way that we would if we like worked how many hours a day are we working, how much do we expect from ourselves, and it's like you need to almost treat yourself as if you are your own employee and like give yourself a break sometimes.
And a bonus tip is to find out how you can take vacations as a business expense.
Yeah, totally.
That's genius. I'm trying to get into that too.
Yeah.
We're actually planning a mystery trip where we have our YouTube audience choose where we go.
Nice.
Like picking out of a hat maybe like 10 locations and then whittling down to 3 and then having the audience choose which 3 we go to.
That'd be fun.
And then just kind of, like experiment and vlog and maybe similar storytelling to you guys where it's like a lot of voiceovers and stuff. And then maybe do something daily or every other day and just make it a part of the experience.
Yeah.
That's always a good thing. Because then you can write it off.
Yeah,
Exactly.
for sure.
Exactly. All right, 2 more questions here. What advice would you give to people who are facing doubt, who feel like they don't have the confidence or they're struggling to put their art out into the world?
I think everyone has doubts. It's just a matter of, getting it's so simple, but just getting out there and shooting, like just doing it. We were just talking about this. The first 10,000 photos you take are your worst. Like they're not going to be good, but just getting out there and putting what you do, like putting your passion into practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Someone asked us about that first 10,000 photos. They're like, is that true? And I thought back to it and I was like, there's no way I would want to show any of you one of my first 10,000 or my first 50,000 even. Like, it is a lot of that is like experience, but also knowing that everyone experiences that. Like to this day, I'm like, I'm a crappy photographer.
Yeah.
I'm like, this sucks. I hate this. Why can't I be as good as this other person? So even people that want to say like, oh, I wish I could take photos like you. Even me though, even the person you look up to probably has their own doubts. So
Right. And also the not having doubts is dangerous.
Yeah.
Like that's when you stagnate.
Overconfidence
Yeah. We were just watching a thing about like why people who are so bad
Think
are
they're
so
so good.
confident.
Yeah.
You like having those doubts is what pushes you to be better.
Yeah, you can embrace them, and also don't worry too much about what people say. And you don't have to take every comment with the same weight. If you don't respect someone else's work and they give you feedback, you don't need to listen to their feedback. So it's you can develop a thick skin too against that, and look for advice from people whose work you respect.
Yeah, I think doubt probably makes us better people. Because if you're too confident, if you're too Kanye,
No one likes that person.
Yeah.
No one wants to hang out with that person.
No matter how much somebody might like your work, it doesn't matter. Like that's not going to be the only thing. You can't base your entire life off of just like if people like what you do or like the videos or photos.
That
you
doesn't
make.
define you as a person.
Awesome. That's a great note to end the podcast on. What's the best way for people to find you online? Where should we send them?
I mean, we're at most places. I think YouTube is our main platform for videos, and we read through the comments, and you can say hi there. Twitter is
YouTube.com/Mango Street.
/Mango Street. On Twitter, we're at Mango Street Lab, and you can holler at us there. We're also on Instagram. We have our personal Instagrams, and we also have one for the for the combined, and that's just at Mango Street Lab.
And our dog has an Instagram.
Our dog has an Instagram because we're those people.
That's important.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna cut it. What's his Instagram?
At French Carlton.
Okay, I'm gonna cut out all those other plugs and just get French Carlton. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming on the podcast. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. That was fun.
Thanks for listening to this week's podcast with the amazing and talented Mango Street. Don't you forget that I am holding one of the greatest competitions in the history of podcasting. That's right. It's the Get the Rock on Matt's Podcast Jingle Competition, trademark, all rights reserved, patent pending. Send your 5-second jingle today to hello@mattdiavella.com. That's hello@mattdiavella.com. I cannot wait to hear from you. See you guys next week.